Hey, greatness. It's me, Sister Mothyna. And this training, Engage, Inspire, Prevent, is specifically designed for prevention education specialists in the areas of sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking. I've spent 17 years of my career working in the violence prevention field, specializing in sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, as well as child sexual abuse and elder abuse. Now, what I knew for sure is as I began my journey, there was very little out there about how to deliver powerful stories and messages, especially about the things no one really wants to talk about, except maybe us. However, it was critical that I got into my communities, made those connections. I spent so much of my career speaking to youth and young adults, but I also worked with military personnel, law enforcement, colleges, universities, and there was something that was common across all of those audiences that I had to get them to say yes to leaning in more and hearing more about what I needed to share. My agency required it because of grant funding and metrics that we had designed. My boss required it because she wanted to make sure that we were making a connection to our community, and the survivors required it, and their loved ones. Those of us who need these messages to get out into the world so we can make a difference. Now, this is a brief and quick session. We don't have time to deep dive into all of the nuances around storytelling. And if you're new to the field of sexual violence prevention, welcome to the community. And I will also say that this will set you on a quick trajectory to making lasting impact in front of your audiences. Out of all the people I've trained and spoken in front of, not once did I have somebody come to me 6 months or a year later and say, I remember the statistic that you shared on X. But they often would happen during those rare, brief moments where I did get to reconnect with someone that may have heard me speak in an arena before. Was I remember the story you told about X. And you want them to remember those messages and those stories, but also the action that they could take. The day that I had college students come up to me and say, hey, I remember you speaking during my freshman year, and I actually ended a relationship because of you. Those are proud days for me. And I'm sure there are going to be times in your career where you wonder if what you talked about made an impact, if what you shared made a difference. I'm here to tell you that many of those experiences you won't get a chance to reconnect with. But it is making an impact. It is making a difference. And the way we show up for those that are listening and connected to us is a powerful way for us to say yes to changing the culture and the environment that we live in, so that gender-based violence has a opportunity not to infiltrate new generations, and that those generations have the opportunity to make a difference and an impact around how they address gender-based violence and reduce it in their own relationships, communities, and families. So I wanted to be sure to share my sensory storytelling checklist so that as you work on delivering powerful presentations, you understand some of the things you want to start thinking about incorporating into those presentations, into those sessions, into that live stream video that will really take you there. When you're sharing stories, there are a lot of things to consider. And in this brief video, we can't talk about all of them. However, what we are going to be able to do is really take a look at how we can, in fact, share stories that include things that connect to the heart of the human that we are speaking to. So my checklist really starts with faces are greater than facts. Faces are greater than facts. And I'm not saying faces as in show a picture of someone's face. While that can be compelling to a degree, what you want to do is as you're talking, you're painting a picture of the human on the other side of the violence and the trauma. Not just what happened to them, but who they are in front of that experience and since that experience. Hope multiplied by action. Hope multiplied by action equals momentum. Faces are greater than facts gives you a memorable message, story to share. And hope multiplied by action equals momentum means that you're going to support someone. The reality is, in my career, I never had a member of the general public come up to me and say, "We are so excited to learn about this because this is fun, great stuff." That's not going to happen. What they really might say is, "I know how important this is, and it's happened to people that I know and love, and I want to know what to do about it." And some of them might say, "Listen, I don't know why you're here. I just want you to get these prostitutes out of our neighborhoods and our communities." True story, that really did happen to me. But what I found to be true is that when you give people a chance to understand that there's something that they can do about what they're seeing or experiencing in their own families and their own communities, and that they are actions, real life things that they can do. I used to do a PowerPoint slide that had at least 3 things that were call to actions for every single one of my audiences that I spoke to. Okay. When you give them that, it increases the likelihood that they will actually move out on what you shared and create space where the messaging that you're sharing from your agency, from your organization, is going to go beyond that audience into everyone else that audience touches. Me plus we equals intimacy. So when I say me plus we equals intimacy or empathy, it's how are you making a connection with your audience? How are you making sure that whether you're talking to middle schoolers or you're talking to policymakers, how are you ensuring that you're making a connection with the listener and the content that you're sharing of who you are representing, the survivor, the agency, the organization? When you can build empathy around the human that's behind this work, you as well as the survivors that you represent, that increases the likelihood that people are willing to do something about it. Generally, when I'm talking about storytelling, I often share that whenever we have the opportunity to craft or use stories, it increases the likelihood that the audience makes a connection. All right, so we're going to wrap this up because I promised to keep this video short, and we're coming to that point where we want to wrap up. However, remember that every story has an anatomy to it. It's something you've been paying attention to since your earliest nursery rhymes. There are always going to be key aspects to a story. There are 5 of them. And so you want to make sure that those key aspects are there. We don't have time to deep dive in, but those aspects are character, setting, plot, conflict, and resolution. Okay. Now, activating the senses is about how you use sensory storytelling words to really create a connection beyond. Let me give you an example. That was hard. Okay. That was difficult. Okay. That's a little bit okay. But what if you could say something like, the grit of that work? Oh, I don't even get like, let's pause right there. When you say grit versus hard, doesn't that give you a different context of challenge? So using words as simple as that to peak or tweak what you're sharing and how it works. And then my 5H framework is really taking a look at heart, humanity, the hero, the hurdle, as well as the herald. This is really that every single story needs the 5H framework in order to move beyond the moment and create a lasting magnetic experience for your listener. So that's an introduction into the sensory compelling checklist for storytelling. Thank you so much for paying attention, tuning into this video. If you want more, be sure to drop into the comments or what have you, and let us know so how we can serve you. Providing trainings and content and information that carries you from preventionist to storyteller isn't what I'm about. I'm about ensuring that as a preventionist, you embed storytelling into your work. It's always a pleasure to get a chance to share a bit more for those of us who are doing the work to create culture shift and change. Go ahead, follow my website, send me a message, let me know how this has resonated with you. I'm at Mothyna on all the things, and we'll get a chance to work together soon, I hope. Looking forward to talking to you. Have a great day.